cheap. I get them for like $8. I have to get serious.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call the Common Council to order. I will ask our clerk to call the roll to determine a quorum.
Alderperson Barzak.
Here.
Chaplesky.
Here.
Lysick.
Excused.
May.
Here.
Probst. Here. Reinke. Here. Rote.
Here.
Sangstack.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
9 present, 1 excused.
We have a quorum. Alderman Barzak will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have no public hearings this evening, so we'll move right on to item E, citizen participation. It's an opportunity for residents to address the council on matters of interest to them. We ask that you limit your comments to approximately 5 minutes. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council under citizen participation? If you could please approach the microphone and sign in either before or after your comments.
This is fast today. I didn't know you guys were on vacation. I came a couple weeks ago on the same thing, and there was nobody here, so I hope everybody had a nice vacation. I'm John O'Hara.
Sorry, Mr. O'Hara, can you use the microphone?
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
I'm John O'Hara. I'm a block captain. I live on the South 55th South in Lincoln. And I'm just here real quick I'll tell you what triggered this, and I just want a little tweaking of one of the ordinances. I don't want to change or anything like that. I thought I'd bring this to your attention, because I came out on my alley, which, by the way, we had redone a couple years ago. I still owe money on it, taking out, I think it was total $1,700. And I came out in the back, and here every car parking in their alley had a ticket. I looked, there was a ticket on my car, and I looked down across the street, there was a ticket, to my left was a ticket. So everybody had a ticket all the way down the alley. Well, I thought that's kind of weird, In fact, I talked to one of the neighbors, and he said he hadn't got a ticket parking in the alley. He's lived there 20 years and never got a ticket. So I did some research, all right? I came down and I talked to the city engineers, and it came up, the ordinance we're talking about is 1010, actually -2 then, parking restrictions on streets, alleys, and sidewalks. And I found out from both of the engineers, there is no specific of what's considered in the alley, whether it's the tire, there's no measurement, there's the mirror. I'll give you an example, is that one of the telephone poles in this new alley that they can is 14 inches into the alley. I mean, according to this ordinance, that telephone pole should be getting a ticket every night, So, and some of us, I got a very small, the car that was outside is a little yellow Avail. You can't get a much smaller car than that. And the neighbor 2 doors over, he's a roofer, and he's got I think it's a Silverado. He can't park without being, quote, into the alley. I mean, it's impossible. And yet he needs to, because he has so much stuff using in his garage. So I'm just saying I think there's a problem here, that both engineers ended up saying, well, since there's no measurement in this ordinance or specifics, it's up to the discretion of the police officer. That's what it comes down to. I don't think that's fair, especially when all got tickets, and some of us can't not park, quote, into the alley. So I'm just suggesting maybe tweaking that, like, for instance, the one with the Silverado, unless he puts another coat of paint on the garage, he's got to stick his tire, so it's about 14 inches into where the new concrete is, all right, equivalent to the pole. One of the neighbors, when you guys, I know, were on vacation, he was coming down here too with the same thing, because he got a ticket too. That's the first ticket he got. So that's all, very quick. If you look at that ordinance, there's nothing specific. And I went around and measured actually different alleys and stuff, and I mean, I could have parked my car into the alley 14 inches and parked another one like mine over the other side of the alley 14 inches, and still was enough room to put a deuce and a half, the military truck or a tank down there. So it's not like, oh, we're taking and making it where it wouldn't be, you can't plow it, or, it wouldn't be rational or reasonable, taking that space up, a lot of room. I know some other alleys are a little tighter than this new one, but at the same time, you shouldn't have to sit there and hug, now, to not hit that line, even with this little yellow car, I have to hug, and I can't even open the door without opening the garage door first to get out. So I think a little rational adjustment, maybe saying 14 inches from the line or 12 inches, or whatever you guys come up with, it would just prevent this kind of, discretion of the officer. I think it was indiscretion in this kind of situation, if somebody hadn't got a ticket in 20 years and they got it. So that's all. I just want to thank you for your time. Otherwise, you guys are doing a great job. I see what's happening around the city, even the selection of trees that are being planted on 60th, and they blossom in the spring, and so I'm very pleased with everything I see. That's just a little minor detail. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else wish to address the council under citizen participation?
I'm writing as fast as I can.
I don't care, you can stand it. Wait, I want you to stay here a minute when I'm talking.
Okay.
Robert Brown, 2160 South 86th Street. And I'll just add to the gentleman that just talked, if you'd read the ordinance real carefully, when they define an alley is not defined like you think. It's got to have a place for delivery. And I'll bet you, if you take that argument, that's not an alley behind your house, it's a street. Go with that argument. Go read it, though.
I got it right here. See, this is the ordinance is
Yeah,
right there.
go read further and study, and you'll find out that's a street behind your house. It ain't considered an alley, I'm just telling you.
Okay, interesting.
If you want to
That
get
I
rid of
didn't
the ticket, I'm telling you.
know. Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
actually, the funny part about it was two ordinances. I wasn't even bothered.
Well, I don't
about
want
the
to read, I got to talk some more. But
Okay,
I'm just
all right,
telling you,
no.
that it does state and describe an alley, and I'll bet you that's not an alley behind your house.
Let it go.
Bet it's a street. Okay. Anyway, I want to get into my case because the city wants to hit me with $1,100, and I'm going back to court in 10 days. I did have a jury trial. About 2 years ago, the city invited the Nazi party here. They welcome them. Come on over, sit in the front. We'll put a fence around you. City spent $100,000 with police and riot gear to stand there, and I walked around with a sign. I wasn't no part of it. I was in the back by the alley where you go in the parking lot. They gave me a ticket for supposedly crossing a police line. I was 20 feet away from it, but I don't want to go into that. We did have a trial, and what I'm getting at, I won the jury trial. The city of West Ellis, Janet Murden, appealed at appellate court, and that's why I'm standing here. She wants to collect now. They're going to retry me. I get a new trial. She wants to collect what it costs the city to appeal my case with the appellate court. But I was looking over the transcript. You can see it here, 125 pages. And I want to reflect you. Janet Murden has it in the city attorney's office. The Janet Murden who pursues all these terrible criminals around here, like people who feed squirrels and so forth. When I read in the, I'm looking at page 58 with the judge. And the judge said, Attorney Murden, Your Honor, I know that you said that in a preliminary instruction, you mentioned something about the defendant is presumed innocent. In civil cases, a civil forfeiture action, there is no presumption of innocence. The court, you have a burden, that's why there's a presumption. Attorney Murden, no, in Village of Sister Bay versus Hawkins, the court said that there is no presumption. It's just the city has a burden of proof, and there's no presumption that the defendant is innocent. I'm going to skip a page. What happened, we went out to lunch, it came back, the jury came in. The judge recalled the case, and he said, I've looked at it, and he more or less told her she's right, there is no presumption. And he asked her if she wanted to object or do anything about it. She said no. Janet Murden said no, she wasn't going to argue. She was satisfied with the judge's decision. After the case that I won, she changed her mind and never brought this up to the appellate court. I just found it now that he gave her a chance to change her mind. She didn't want to do it. She didn't want to object. Now, when she went to the appellate court and they agreed with her, now I get the bill for $1,100. I'll be filing some papers here shortly fighting this because I have no intention of paying the $1,100. I intend to go back to court in about a month and win this trial again. And I'm not paying the $1,100. It's only a $200 some ticket to begin with. I've got a lot of trouble with Janet Murden. I said this before, I'm not going to rehash it. As you know, I'm not going to mention anybody's name, that when another party had a trial, I was involved with it. She told the witnesses not to come to court. Even though they were paid a subpoena, she told them they don't have to come to court, and they were needed.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. I wish somebody, that's a criminal act. That's a lot worse than me walking around with a sign saying, who's paying for all these cops? And I got nailed for it. She violated the Wisconsin statutes and told the person, never mind the fact you're subpoenaed, you don't have to go to court. Never mind the fact you're paid, you don't have to go to court. And that person was naive enough, I'll use the word naive enough. You could sit a bunch of words in there beside being naive enough. He didn't show up. That's wrong, that's against the law, and you guys sit around and don't do nothing about it. Before I get out of here, just on the national scene, I hope they do not send anybody over in Syria. I'm disappointed the Muslim Brotherhood is burning all the churches down in the Christians. They're burning the women and children alive. They do a lot of bad stuff. We know they got a bad ruler, but they also got a lot of bad people living there that are fighting the heads of that government. So I would hope that people do not support sending some bombs over there, because we've got to do something about the Muslim Brotherhood that wants to take over that country.
That's time.
So thank you for the time, and I hope somebody here will look at Janet Murden's activity. I don't want to blame all the city attorneys. We got to put the blame on who does stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close citizen participation. We will move on to item F on our agendas. Our committees will be meeting during recess. You can find those room numbers on page 1. Moving on to item G, Mayor's Report. I just want to acknowledge we had another very successful and very safe state fair, and I want to commend all the city departments, the police and fire, public works, engineering for their excellent work. I also want to thank all the neighboring law enforcement agencies that assisted us in keeping the area safe. Secondly, I would like to congratulate the West Allis Fire Department on their reaccreditation. And lastly, I would like to just remind everybody that, as many of you know, school is back in session, so please drive carefully, especially when you are in the areas of our schools. That concludes the mayor's report this evening. Do we have any alderpersons' reports?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman May.
I'd look to quickly announce that the Friends of La Follette Park is having an event on September the 14th. It's their annual pig roast and chicken roast. It happens from 4 to 6 p.m. The garlic mustard, what are they called? The Garlic Mustard Pickers is the name of the band that'll be playing there. It's a free event. You pay for the food, but free to show up, listen to the music, come out and support a great neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other alderpersons' comments this evening?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Weigel.
one thing from the past and one thing from the future. I'd like to thank everybody again. The mayor mentioned State Fair. That's just recently in our rear window. Once again, with a special arrangement with the CDA, the Hale and Central Booster Clubs were able to park cars over on a soon-to-be-developed parcel. So this was the last year we were parking cars there on 82nd and Greenfield. Happy to announce that we actually beat out last year's numbers. So over $51,000 was raised for the Hale and Central Booster Clubs. George and Liz did a great job of wrangling all the teachers, the coaches, the students for Hale and Central respectively. I'd like to also extend a big thank you to States Contracting. They donated the use of the light towers again. And a big thank you to Jerry Motter. Jerry made sure that the diesel tanks were filled, topped off, so the lights could run all night long. And one late night I was there, and someone parking a car had a flat tire and didn't have a jack. I had a jack. I went to help him, and Jerry jumped in and did all the work. I couldn't even do it, so that's just the kind of guy Jerry is. And Jerry's an example of the kind of citizens we have here in West Allis. That's the past. Coming up, I saw Diane from the Chamber of Commerce was here. I thought she was going to speak during the public comment period, but Forks and Corks is just around the corner again. It's coming up I can say Friday, the 13th of September. It will not be an unlucky day. It'll be, Forks and Corks will be again down at the Farmers Market. Excellent opportunity to sample food and beverages from West Dallas businesses. Again, it's Friday the 13th from 5:30 to 9:30 at the West Dallas Farmers Market. Tickets are available now at the Chamber, or I believe you can buy tickets online. That's correct. Diane just gave me the nod. So Friday the 13th at the Farmers Market. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other alderpersons' reports this evening?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Probst.
I'd like to take a few minutes. I had an opportunity recently to do some ride-alongs with both the West Dallas Fire Department, the West Dallas Police Department, and I got a chance to work with many members of the Department of Public Works. But before I get to that, I would like to piggyback on the back of Alderman Weigel's thank yous to the city, and we would be remiss in not thanking our Department of Public Works for providing safety vests and flags to keep the kids safe while they were parking all those vehicles, and it was nice to know that we could be counted on to keep our kids safe. Back to the ride-alongs. I had that opportunity to do that. The first ride-along I did was with the fire department. It was a really neat opportunity for me to spend the evening with those firefighters, as well as go on a couple of emergency calls. I had the opportunity to see one of my former students, who I taught many years ago, become the teacher, while I got to be the student sitting in the back of the rig and watching the unbelievable care and concern that he took in taking care of the people that were in distress. It's neat to be able to see your kids grow up and to be able to come back and be real productive members of society. So that was exceptionally gratifying for me. I had the chance to do the ride-along during the state fair with the police department and with one of the acting sergeants. And again, a number of calls of various different kinds, very concerned about my safety. And I got a chance to be dropped off in front of State Fair and watch traffic for a while. That was a treat. So it was a really neat opportunity. But probably the thing that I really had the opportunity to get most involved with was my ride-alongs with the Department of Public Works. I had the chance to go and do a garbage route. And I donned my safety gear, my safety glasses. I did not have steel-toed boots. But I did go along and had the opportunity to pick up some trash. And I have a few comments. And I think it's really important because, boy, oh boy, do we hear about it when someone doesn't do their job right. But we very often don't take the time to stop and tell you when they do. And the gentlemen that I had an opportunity to ride along with that day have a very thankless job. And I am very grateful for the work that they do. They were very professional, and there are a number of neighborhoods in our city that could really use some TLC by the people that live there. You know, I think it's really important that we remember that when we have alleys behind our homes and we put up fences to protect our yards, that there extends into that alley some of your property that needs to be maintained. I saw a number of alleys that were overgrown, people not taking care of things, and that is going to be a breeding ground and a habitat for types of vermin we'd rather not have in our neighborhood. Those types of animals are creating mayhem on the eastern end of West Dallas. Residents need to be very wary of this. They need to maintain their property, and they need to keep the cans on their refuse. It does us no good if we are leaving a food source and a habitat for these animals and creatures to reside in. So I would, you know, we've started a strategic planning committee here in West Dallas, and we're really looking forward at trying to create a better image for West Dallas. And I have to say that it's going to have to start at home. If we each do not take care of our own little piece of this world, our little property that we live on, we're not going to be able to solve a whole lot. I think it starts at home. And to all of the landlords out there in West Dallas, I think it's really imperative that you make sure that you have appropriate recycling containers and appropriate refuse containers for the tenants that live in your properties. And I think it's really important that you not forget the responsibility you have to this community, and that is to take care of the place that you live. So thanks very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak. And the next time you see your sanitation worker out in front of your house, give them a smile. They have a very thankless job, and I am very grateful for the work they do. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other alderpersons' reports this evening?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Sangstock?
Madam Clerk, do we have any additional items for the agenda this evening?
There is a closed session before the Public Works Committee as noted on the supplemental agenda.
With that addition, Mayor Devine, I move approval of the agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Reinke. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Sangstock?
move approval of the minutes of this honorable body of our meeting of August 6, 2013.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman May. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item J on your agenda, I'll ask for a motion to place items 1, 2, 3 on file and refer 4, 5, and 6 to the city attorney.
So moved?
Motion by Alderman Probst, second by Alderman Barzak. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item K, standing committee reports. License and Health Committee, Alderman Chaplesky.
I'd like to report on items number 7 through 13 on tonight's agenda. These are various bartender's license and police reports. They were all voted for approval or placed on file by 4 members of the committee, 1 member excused. I'd like to move for adoption of the committee's report.
Second.
There's a motion, there is a second by Alderman Barzak. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Alderman.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Sangstock.
I move that this common council for the city of West Allis stand in recess until the conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There's a motion, there is a second by Alderman Reinke. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are in recess.